And please tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I would love to interact with you legends. Now to the story. I never thought I would start a date feeling like I was walking into some weird audition, but that's exactly how this one went. The whole thing started on a boring Friday night. I was tired of staring at the same four walls where I live, and I was scrolling through profiles just hoping to find someone normal. Her name was Kayla. Pretty smile, bright eyes, nothing too crazy on her profile except a photo with another girl who kind of looked like her. I figured it was a cousin or something. We chatted for a few days, nothing deep, just light stuff about food and jobs and hobbies. She kept ignoring questions about her family, though, which was kind of random. Still, I agreed to meet. She suggested this weird old bowling alley on the edge of town. Not the shining neon ones, but one that looked like it got stuck in the early 2000s. The sign outside barely lit up, like half the letters were dying. I walked inside and instantly got hit with the smell of burnt popcorn and old carpet. She texted that the lanes at the very back were free, so I headed over. That's when I saw her sitting there smiling. And right next to her was the same girl from her picture, her younger sister. I didn't know what to say because there was no warning. The sister was leaning back with her arms crossed, scanning me up and down like I was some item being checked. They both had this look like they already knew something I didn't. I sat down and tried to play it cool, but my stomach felt heavy. Kayla introduced her sister, and the girl didn't even bother to shake my hand. She just kind of smirked and whispered something to Kayla, and then they laughed. At that moment, I felt like I walked into the punchline. We ordered drinks from this old dude behind the counter. While we waited, the sister kept asking questions about my job, my house, my parents, what car I drove, how much rent I paid. Not curious questions, judging questions. Then she admitted that she and Kayla rate guys together. Not just looks, but outfits, voice, handshake, manners, social media, everything. She said they already rated me before I even arrived, based on my photos and bio. I laughed awkwardly, thinking it was a joke, but they stared dead serious. Kayla pulled out a small notebook and showed me numbers written next to different names. Some crossed out, some circled. At that point, I should have just walked out, but I tried to convince myself they were just messing around. We started bowling. I could barely focus. Every time I took a shot, they whispered behind me. Every time I sat down, the sister pulled out her phone and typed. Every time I spoke, Kayla tilted her head like she was reviewing a performance. I asked why the notebook mattered so much, and she just said that most guys waste her time, so they created a system. After a few frames, the sister stepped away and made a call. When she returned, she said another guy was on his way. The way she said it felt off. Like this was some weird contest. I asked what she meant, and she shrugged and said they sometimes invite more than one guy to compare in person. She said I should relax because it's fun. I tried to laugh it off again, but my throat was dry. I asked if they were serious. Kayla nodded like this was normal. She said the other dude scored higher in photos, but now she wanted to compare posture and attitude. I told them I was leaving, and Kayla grabbed my wrist, not tight, but enough to make it uncomfortable. She said she just wanted to finish one more round. Her tone dropped from playful to cold. I pulled my arm away. The sister stood up and blocked the aisle like I was trying to escape. She said I was acting suspicious, that guys who bail too fast are hiding things, and that alone drops points. She talked like she was a judge in some low-budget show. I pushed past her and walked toward the exit. The carpet felt weirdly sticky, and the building seemed darker than before. When I got outside, the parking lot was half empty, and the few cars there looked abandoned. Before I reached my car, I heard voices behind me. A lot of voices. I turned and saw Kayla waving her arms, yelling about how rude I was. Her sister had her phone out like she was recording me. They walked fast, almost jogging, saying they needed a conclusion for their video. They wanted a final rating scene. My heart started pounding. I unlocked my car, but they got close enough that I could see the phone screen. A recording app. Comments already there. Other videos. Other guys. The titles were harsh. Stuff about posture problems, cheap clothes, boring voice. Thousands of views. People laughing at random strangers. This was their entertainment. They lured men, rated them, humiliated them online. When I saw my name on the newest draft title, my stomach dropped. I jumped in and locked the doors. Kayla banged on the window, smiling like this was all just part of the plan. Her sister pointed the camera at my face through the glass, narrating like she was some host. I started the engine and reversed, but they kept following until I turned onto the main road. Even as I drove off, I could see them in the mirror, standing under the dying sign lights, still talking into the phone, like they had already rehearsed what happened. When I got home where I live, I checked online. Nothing yet. I kept refreshing. Minutes felt like hours. The thought of waking up and seeing my face plastered under some embarrassing title made my hands shake. I blocked both of them instantly. I tried to sleep, but the bowling alley smell stuck in my nose somehow. It felt like the whole night was still happening in slow motion. In the morning, I checked again. Still nothing. Then around noon, I saw a story posted by the sister. A clip from the parking lot. My face blurred badly, but you could still kind of tell it was me. She talked about my reaction, called me dramatic, said I had awkward energy. Comments started rolling in. Random people judging me based on a 30-second clip. The video got reposted on some lame page that reviews awkward dates. I didn't know any of these people. They didn't know me, but they were already stacking opinions. Over the next few days, I kept seeing replies from accounts I didn't recognize. People sending me screenshots. People laughing. It faded after a while, but the idea stuck in my head. How many other guys went through that? How many got circled in that notebook? How many had their worst reactions filmed and tossed online for strangers? Weeks later, while I was scrolling late at night, I saw another video. Same bowling alley background. Another dude standing confused while Kayla and her sister whispered behind him. Same notebook. Same reading structure. Same humiliating tone. It suddenly hit me. This wasn't about dating. It was a hobby for them. And nobody stops them because most people just ignore embarrassing moments and move on. I never went near that part of town again. Whenever I pass a bowling alley, I get this weird heavy feeling in my chest. Not fear, just disgust. It's crazy what some people find entertaining. Not scary movies or ghost stories. Real people. Real reactions. Real humiliation. Anyway, that's how my Friday night went. I still bet their profile's blocked. I still check once in a while just to be sure nothing new pops up. You can't control how people act. You can only hope you don't bump into the wrong ones at the wrong moment. I met him at a small cafe near a bus depot. The place smelled like burnt milk and cheap pastries. He showed up 10 minutes late and sat down without apologizing. He pulled out his phone fast and told me he never deletes previous dates. He said he likes keeping options lined up. He scrolled through dozens of names. He pointed at mine and said I was currently 6th. He spoke like this was normal. He said first place cancels on him a lot. Second place is boring. Third place lives far. Fourth is busy. Fifth is clingy. Sixth is safe. He stared at me with flat eyes while explaining how he ranks people. He showed messages from girls he met in the last 3 weeks. He typed short replies to each of them while I sat there. He said this cafe was where he tests reactions because there are cameras everywhere. He asked to take a photo of me from the side. He said he collects profile angles so he can compare expressions between dates. He had a folder for each person. He took the picture anyway. When he looked at it, he whispered that I looked nervous. He typed something next to my name. He said he keeps backups so no one is too important. He pulled up a spreadsheet and showed columns for attitude, cost of dates, reply speed, outfit quality, and whether he thinks they would argue in public. I saw words like replaceable and trial. My stomach dropped. We ordered drinks. He made me pay for mine because he said 6th place should not cost him anything. He said he only pays for 1st and 2nd. While we drank, he messaged 4th place to ask if she was free later. He looked disappointed when she replied no. Then he messaged 2nd place and sent a heart emoji. He never looked at me while doing it. I tried to leave, but he leaned forward. He said that if I walked out too early, he would move me to 8th. He said 8th is where he keeps people he ignores but still updates on. He said 8th place gets embarrassed slowly over weeks. He stared like he was explaining weather patterns. He wanted to quiz me. He asked if I would get annoyed if he forgot my birthday. He asked if I post many photos. He asked if I would disagree with him in public. Each answer got typed into the spreadsheet. His phone never stopped vibrating. He smiled each time one of the other girls typed back. When I asked why he does this, he said losing options feels like weakness. He said he once dropped to one person, and when she left, he lost everything. Now he studies patterns. He keeps voices around him so silence never hits. He bragged that he can predict who will reply first based on typing patterns. He showed me timestamps. At one point, he excused himself and went to the bathroom. He left his phone unlocked. I saw his messages. He sent the same opening lines to 10 different girls this morning. He had scheduled reminders to text compliments at specific times. He had reminders to unfollow people, then follow them again later to stay in their heads. It looked like a game designed by someone afraid of being ignored. When he came back, he asked what I looked at. I said nothing. He stared long enough that I looked away. He typed something again. Then he stood and asked if I wanted to walk around. We left the cafe and walked down a long street lined with empty shop windows. He said he liked walking past windows because reflections show true posture. He asked me to stand next to a store window so he could compare my height to his. He mentioned that fourth place looked shorter last week, and that annoyed him. While talking, he filmed me quickly and saved it to his phone. He cropped it without speaking and marked the file with today's date. He got frustrated when I stopped responding to his comments. He said I was falling to seventh. He typed fast and shook his head. He started talking about first place again. He said if she messaged any minute now, he would cancel on me. He kept refreshing the chat like she was oxygen. I told him I needed to head home. He sighed and said ending the date early ruins the ranking. He said now he needs to test someone else tonight. He pulled up 3 chats and sent the same message to each. Within seconds, he had plans lined up. He smiled like he just solved a puzzle. He walked me back toward the bus depot. On the way, he asked if he could keep my number on silent mode. He said silent mode is better for 6th place because there is less pressure. He asked if I would still reply sometimes. I didn't answer. He typed again. When we reached the depot, he lifted his phone and pointed it at me. He took another picture. He said he was updating my file. He said he would not delete me because I showed potential for stability later. He thanked me for proving his point. Then he walked away texting 4 different people at once. That night, I blocked him everywhere. I sat at home where I live and kept checking my messages, afraid he had screenshotted things. Nothing happened. Days passed. I thought it was done. Then I got a message from a random girl. She said my name was on his list. She said she found the folder while he went to buy something. She said there were videos and voice notes and rankings. Dozens of them. She said she told him she felt sick and left. She begged me not to reply to him again because ignoring him removes you from the scoring system. She said replying keeps you alive in the rankings. Staying alive means he tries to study you. The smartest thing is silence. I blocked her too. I deleted everything. I sat in my room and stared at my own reflection through my phone screen. It all felt mechanical, like I was a small number on a spreadsheet. I kept wondering how many of us there were, waiting in folders, sorted by attitude and height. He never messaged again. I never thought I would start a story like this, but the night felt weird before it even began. I got to this small rooftop lounge near the edge of the city. It had those fake plants, warm string lights, and terrible chill music playing from some tiny speaker in the corner. I remember thinking it was kind of nice though, just quiet enough so you could hear people laughing 2 cables away. I got there early because I did not want to look rushed, and I just chilled at the bar scrolling on my phone. When she walked in, she looked normal. Hoodie, messy hair, glasses. We had been chatting on the app for like a week. Nothing crazy, just short talks about food and gym stuff. I thought it would be normal. She sat down across from me, and the first 10 minutes were all right. She talked fast and kept looking around like she expected something. I thought she was just nervous. I kept trying to ask questions to calm things down, but she talked like she was reciting a script, and sometimes she grinned at random points that did not match what she was saying. I tried to ignore it because sometimes people just act weird on first dates. The city wind was hitting the rooftop, and everyone kept fixing their hair because it was blowing everywhere. She barely noticed. We ordered drinks and chips, nothing expensive. The waiter dropped off the bill early, which was annoying because it made me feel rushed. We laughed about it, and things got slightly smoother. I started relaxing. Then she put her hand in her hoodie pocket, pulled out her phone, and placed it against a salt shaker like a tiny tripod. I thought she was going to show me a picture or something, so I kept talking. But then she tapped something and looked straight into the camera with a big fake smile. That is when I heard voices. Not from the lounge. From the phone. Her followers. She had gone live. Before I could even react, there were comments flying up her screen, people asking who I was, telling her to ask questions, rating me based on my clothes, my hair, my facial expression. She spoke into the phone like I was some kind of product she was reviewing. I tried to keep calm because everyone around us could hear her. She introduced me like I was a guest on some cheap show. I sat there, frozen, not knowing if I should get up or pretend everything was fine. At first, the people watching were just laughing and making dumb comments. But then they started telling her to test me. They told her to make me stand up and spin around. Someone said I looked broke. Another said I looked like I was trying too hard. She seemed entertained. She put her elbow on the table, leaned in like she was interviewing me, asking questions she already knew the answers to. Stuff we talked about in chats. She wanted her viewers to rate my reactions. I could hear her phone buzzing nonstop. It made my stomach drop. I asked her quietly if we could stop the stream, but she acted like she did not hear me. She told her viewers to vote if I was worth seeing again. She literally said those words. She turned the screen toward me so I could see the poll, yes or no. My face was on display to complete strangers, and the thumbs down votes were climbing so fast it made my chest tighten. People in the background turned their heads and whispered to each other. I felt like I was shrinking into the chair. She said her channel was all about dating commentary. She said people love this. She told me she does streams every week and picks a different guy. She bragged that she once got someone to buy her and her family groceries just to get more votes. She was proud of that. She loved attention for people she would never meet. She never blinked. It was almost like she was more alive in front of that camera than she was with me. The worst part was how she kept calling me by some weird nickname her chat gave me. When the votes climbed past 70% no, she laughed like it was nothing. She did not care how uncomfortable I was. She started reading comments out loud, repeating what strangers said about my face, my clothes, even how I sat. It felt like being judged by 1,000 tiny eyes. Then she did something that made this whole thing feel even darker. She asked her viewers what she should do next. They suggested weird stuff like pretend to leave, make me pay, and walk out, try to embarrass me, pretend to cry, and see how I react. She waited for their votes like their approval meant everything. Her eyes were locked on the screen as if they were her real friends. I could not believe this was happening in real life. I felt trapped. The waiter came back and asked if everything was okay. She turned the phone toward him too, telling everyone to rate him as well. He looked confused, then annoyed. He walked off shaking his head. More people around us started watching, whispering. It was humiliating. I stood up and said I was going to leave. She did not try to stop me. She just pointed the phone at my back as I walked toward the stairs. The comments exploded with laughter emojis and people calling me boring or saying I could not handle pressure. I got down the stairs and walked out onto the street. My heart was racing. The city lights blurred and cars passed by without caring about any of it. I checked the app later and she had unfollowed me. But her stream was still up as a replay. Hundreds of viewers. They called the whole day disappointing. They reviewed me like a meal. They said I was not worth their time. The next day, I went to the lounge again, just to see if someone had recorded something. The staff said this was not the first time. Apparently, she comes there every week with a new person to build her channel. They hate it because someone always ends up leaving upset. Nobody reports her because technically she is not breaking any rules, and the guys rarely want more attention. They told me there were 4 other guys who showed up earlier in the month. All of them walked out too. I blocked her on everything and tried to move on, but a few random accounts messaged me afterwards, saying stuff like they recognized my face from her stream and wanted to tell me their verdict. Some said I looked nervous. Some said I looked plain. I am not even sure how they found my profile, but they did. It made me feel watched, like my face could show up anywhere at any time if someone screenshotted it. I do not date on that app anymore. I deleted it 2 days later. I still think about the poll sometimes. Strangers deciding if I deserved another chance. It is crazy how people will treat real humans like entertainment if you give them a camera and a place to comment. I do not usually go on dinner dates during the week, but this guy seemed normal enough when we matched. He talked a lot about gym life, diet routines, supplements, and stuff like that, but I thought it was just a hobby. I work out sometimes too, so I figured it would be something we could joke about. I did not expect anything crazy. We picked this casual grill spot near a shopping complex. It was not fancy, but it had good lighting and cheap food. When I got there, the place smelled like cooked meat and garlic butter, and you could hear the soft music playing under people talking. I sat by the window, which I kind of regret now because everyone outside could see me. He walked in wearing a tight sleeveless hoodie like we were about to hit a workout instead of eating dinner. He kept pulling the hoodie tighter so his arms looked pumped. He sat down and the first thing he did was check his reflection on his phone. He did it like it was natural. I tried to smile, thinking maybe he just liked how he looked. He did not ask how I was. He just started talking about how his gym posts get tons of likes and that he needs someone to help him build his image. It sounded weird, but I tried to laugh it off and asked him what he meant. He told me straight that he only dates women who can make him look better online. He wanted someone who knows how to pose, someone who can angle the camera right, someone who can take his flexing pictures seriously. I thought he was joking, but his face stayed dead serious. He pulled out his phone and showed me his feed, and it was filled with mirror photos from the changing room, outdoor flexing pictures, and captions about grinding. Half of his comments were from random dudes hyping him up. He scrolled like he was proud. We ordered food, but he barely looked at the menu. He said he does not really eat carbs on weekdays, but he would flex with a steak to show balance. I kind of wanted to get up and leave, but I felt stuck. When the plates arrived, he did not touch his fork. He started fixing his hair and asked me to move to the other side of the booth because the lighting was better over there. I hesitated, and he got impatient. He stood up, walked over, grabbed my plate, and slid it to the other seat so I would move. People stared, and I felt embarrassed. Then he leaned forward and asked if I could take a quick picture of him flexing at the table. I thought he meant like a joke, but he literally rolled up his sleeves and started tightening his muscles. He said he wanted the steak next to his arm because it made the picture look masculine. I took one picture and tried to hand his phone back, but he shook his head and told me to take more. He wanted angled shots, side shots, and he even asked me to stand up to photograph him leaning forward like he was deep in thought. The waiter walked by and slowed down, confused. He checked the pictures like he was reviewing a magazine shoot. He zoomed all the way in on his veins, complimenting himself out loud. He did not say anything about how I looked or how I felt. He asked if I could take a video too, slow motion of him cutting the steak, but not actually eating it. When I hesitated, he frowned and said he needed someone serious about this lifestyle. He then looked around and asked some random guy at the table next to us to take a picture of both of us. He told the stranger to step back and tilt the phone upward to make him look taller. The guy took the photo and walked away without saying anything. Then my date edited it right there at the table, adding filters and boosting shadows so his muscles popped. I just sat there quietly, pushing my salad around. He said I looked too stiff in the picture and made me redo my posture. He tapped my shoulder positioning like I was a mannequin, telling me to lean slightly away so his arm looked bigger. Our food got cold because he refused to take a bite until he got the perfect shot for his story. He spent 15 minutes adjusting his necklace. I felt like I was trapped in someone else's weird world where nothing mattered except likes. He told me about this gym guy named Troy he competes with online and how every caption is planned to beat him. He had saved drafts of different flex quotes. I pretended to care, but it was just depressing. When he finally started eating, he chewed slowly and kept looking at the reflection in his spoon. He wiped his face between every bite like he was afraid of smudging something. Halfway through, he stood up again, dragged a chair over, and asked me to take a picture of his back muscles through his hoodie. The restaurant was getting noisy, and I just wanted to sink into the floor. Another couple across from us stared, and the girl whispered to her boyfriend while pointing at my date. He saw it and smirked like it was admiration. He asked if I could take one more picture near the exit sign because the red light made his skin tone pop. He had me crouch down for a lower angle and angle the phone slightly upward. He kept licking his lips and doing serious faces like he was modeling. People walking in had to squeeze past him while he flexed in their faces. I just wanted the night to end. When Little came, he pulled out his phone and showed me his follower count. He said being with him would boost my clout. I kept thinking he might at least offer to split the bill, but he waited for me to take my card out. He did not say thanks. He just said he would tag me later. I never gave him my handle. Outside, he tried to take a final picture by the fountain, arguing that the water reflection would grab attention. I told him I was tired and needed to go. He looked confused, like I had messed up his routine. He shrugged and said he would need someone more dedicated. He walked back inside and immediately posed by the dessert counter, asking the waiter to capture his jawline. I walked away fast. I blocked him on the app and deleted our chat. The next day, a friend sent me his story. He posted a picture of us at dinner, but he covered my face with a sticker. His caption said he was testing new people and that gym loyalty is rare. I could not believe it. In the comments, someone asked why the girl looked bored, and he replied saying she lacked discipline. I never went back to that grill spot. Every time I pass that area, I see people with ring lights or cameras propped up near tables. Maybe it is normal now, I do not know. But I hope nobody else sits across from him thinking they are meeting a real person. He only cares about flexing for strangers who double tap. I knew this date was going to be weird the second I sat down. Not even in a dramatic way. It was the vibe. We met at this small noodle place in the shopping area, loud enough to get lost in the noise, but bright enough that you could see everyone's face clearly. The floor smelled like soy sauce and pine cleaner, and the workers kept sliding around each other like the place was too small for how many customers walked in. I got there early and grabbed a seat near the wall. She walked in 5 minutes later holding her phone like it was glued to her hand. No smile, no hello, just a quick glance up, and then eyes straight back down. She sat across from me, and before I even said anything, she opened her banking app and let out this long breath like she was stressed about something I caused. She kept tapping her screen, and I could hear her muttering numbers under her breath, like she was doing calculations. I tried making some small talk about the menu, but she kept ignoring me between checking her notifications, locking her phone, then unlocking it again 2 seconds later. I thought she might be dealing with something personal, so I just kept quiet for a bit. Then she finally talked, but not about anything normal. She looked right at me and said she only dates men who can handle her expenses because her last boyfriend failed at that. She said it with no emotion, just flat. She pointed at the menu and asked if I had the money to cover everything she ordered heavy. I laughed at first, thinking she was messing with me, but she stayed dead serious. The waiter came by, and she ordered 2 plates for herself, plus sides. I barely finished ordering my one dish before she opened her banking app again like she was tracking numbers dropping live on her screen. Every time the waiter walked away, she would lean in and whisper about her bills, talking about how rent was due soon, how her phone payment was annoying, how she had a little brother who needed things, how groceries were expensive. She stared at me while she talked like she was waiting for me to offer. I nodded along, but I did not jump in. When my food came, I tried to focus on eating, but I noticed she was barely touching her plate. She was too busy running through her financial problems on her screen like she was presenting a slideshow to her bank. Halfway through the date, she finally started eating, but she paused between bites to check her funds again. It was awkward because every time the app refreshed, she would raise her eyebrows like something dramatic happened. She sidelawed on purpose so I would ask about it. I didn't, so she pushed her phone toward me and showed her low balance. I did not know what she expected me to say. We are on our first date. I do not even know her last name. She told me how she never keeps talking to guys who cannot help her level up. She said she wanted someone who could not only buy dinner, but buy things that matter. She said she tests guys early so she does not waste time. I nodded and kept chewing slowly, mostly to avoid talking. When we finished, she did not even reach for her bag. She just stared at me waiting. I pulled out my card because honestly I just wanted to get out of there. The total was not insane, but still, she smiled like she expected it. When we walked outside, she did not say goodbye or thank you. She stretched her arms and said she wanted to go on a walk. I was thinking maybe she just wanted to talk more, but she led me toward a supermarket instead of the parking lot. I asked why, and she said she needed groceries for her family and figured since we were already out, we could grab some. She said it like it was normal, like first date grocery runs were common. The store was busy, carts clashing, kids running around, the usual chaos. She grabbed a cart and started piling in rice, pasta, toilet rolls, cereal, chicken, and random snacks. I walked beside her slowly, pushing my hands into my pockets, trying to decide if I should bail. Every time she dropped something into the cart, she would glance at me and smile like she was stacking trophies. She even grabbed some expensive chocolates and tossed them in without blinking. After 10 minutes, the cart was full. I finally stopped the cart and said I did not plan to pay for all that. She froze, turned slowly, and stared at me like I had insulted her. She said every guy she sees understands what she brings to the table. She waved her hand at the cart and said if I could not handle this small amount, then I was not ready for someone like her. Small amount. There were at least 10 bags worth of stuff in there. She gripped the cart and walked toward the checkout line without even waiting for me. I didn't follow at first. I stood there staring at the instant noodles like my brain had split in half. Part of me wanted to leave right then. The other part wanted to see how far she would take this. When I finally walked over, she already had everything on the conveyor belt. The cashier scanned everything. The total popped up. It was over $200. My jaw dropped. She turned to me, waiting for me to pull my card out again. I told her I was not paying. She looked around like she wanted the strangers behind us to listen. She said her family needed this food and that any real man would help. She lowered her voice and said if I did not pay, she would post online about how cheap I was. She showed her phone ready to type. I stood still. The cashier looked at both of us like he wished he was anywhere else. When I did not move, she rolled her eyes, told the cashier to put everything back, and stormed out. She left me standing there. The cashier slowly started returning items to the shelves. I apologized, and he shrugged like this was not the first time he had seen something like it. Outside, she waited by the entrance and asked me for bus money. I laughed out loud because I thought she had to be joking. She did not laugh. She held her hand out. I shook my head and walked away. She started complaining loudly, shouting that I wasted her time. People stared. I just kept walking. 30 minutes later, I got home and then saw she unmatched me. The next morning, I woke up to a message from a random account telling me I failed her test and should have been grateful she chose me. Then another account messaged something similar. I blocked them all. I do not tell many people this story. I just avoid dates who talk about money in the first 5 minutes. I still pass by that supermarket sometimes, wondering how many guys she dragged through there like it was some rite of passage. I did not expect anything crazy when I matched with this girl named Mia. Her profile looked normal. Pictures of brunch plates, gym mirrors, sunsets. Nothing too deep. We agreed to meet at this quiet grill spot near the riverside. I got there a bit early, and the place had this weird vibe. Dim lights, soft music, and a bunch of couples sitting close like they were planning their future. I sat near the window so I could at least look at the water if things got boring. When she walked in, she scanned the room like she was picking a chair in class. She smiled, but it was the kind that did not reach her eyes. She sat down across from me, and right away she asked if the food here was expensive. That was the first red flag, but I ignored it. I tried to start things off light, like normal first date stuff. She did not care. She leaned forward and asked how much I make every month. Not what job I do. Not if I enjoy it. Just the money part. I thought she was joking, so I kind of laughed, but she stared dead serious. Then she asked how much my rent was, how much I pay for my phone bill, how much I spend on groceries. She even asked if I had any loans. I tried to switch topics to movies or hobbies, but she kept pulling it back to money. It felt like she was doing an audit. She wanted to know how much I save every month. She asked if I had investments. She asked if any of my family owned property. She talked so casually about moving somewhere nicer and how she hates her small place. The waiter came and asked what we wanted. She picked something cheap but kept glancing at the higher items like she was annoyed she could not order them. While we waited, she said she only dates guys who can provide growth. She used that word so many times. Growth. She said she had dreams and plans, but she needed someone to fund the jump. She said she was tired of struggling. Then she looked at me like I was a bank loan she was trying to see if she qualified for. I never once felt like she cared about me as a person. She did not ask what makes me happy. She did not ask what I wanted in life. Instead, she asked what my credit score was. Then she asked if I would ever consider moving in with someone early to help them level up financially. She gave examples about her friends who met guys and basically got upgraded. She said she deserved the same. When the plates arrived, she examined mine. She said I must eat out often if I can afford something like that. She asked how much I spend on nights out. She asked if I could handle having someone who loves buying nice things. She kept mentioning designer brands and vacations. She said she has been waiting to find someone who can pull her out of her current situation. The conversation shifted to her living conditions. She talked about sharing a room with her cousin and how she hates it. She complained about her cheap mattress, her broken wardrobe, even the neighborhood noise. She said she wished her next boyfriend would have space for her. She said like it was already planned. After we ate, she asked if we could take a walk. We walked along the riverside. The air was cold, and you could hear the water hitting the concrete below. She looked at all the tall flats along the river and pointed at them. She said one day she wants to live in a place like that. She said she imagines waking up in a huge bedroom with quiet mornings, sunlight, and a balcony view. Then she asked if my job had room for promotions. She wanted dates on when I might make more money. She asked if my savings were steady. She said she does not want to waste time on someone who was stuck. I started to feel annoyed. It was not even subtle. She was basically asking if I could carry her life. She talked about how her last boyfriend made her feel like she was drowning because he did not make enough. She said she dumped him when she realized he could not move her forward. She worded it like she fired him from a job. We sat on a bench and she pulled out her phone. She opened her notes app and asked for my monthly income again because she forgot a number. She had a whole list of figures from past dates. She said she was trying to calculate who was worth committing to. She said she had a bracket. Literally a bracket. She said if someone was below a certain number, she does not talk to them again. I felt sick. Not angry. Just sick. She pointed at a flat across the river and said she would love to live there because it would look great on social media. Then she asked how much I had saved total. I refused to answer. She looked annoyed and said relationships are about honesty. I told her honesty goes both ways. She said her finances did not matter because she wanted her partner to provide. She said she sees herself as the type to inspire from the passenger seat. The wind got louder, and you could hear distant train horns echoing through the city. She asked if I would be open to helping her get a better apartment one day. Not like a partnership. She meant helping her get her own place. She said she wants someone who will fund improvements. She actually said improvements like she was a project. We walked back to the station. She did not thank me for the meal. She just kept asking what area I live in and how much properties are worth there. She asked if my place had space for two. She asked how many bills I pay. She asked if I would ever consider paying for someone else's rent so they can stay close. At the station stairs, she pulled me aside and said she will give me a chance if my income grows by next summer. She said if it does not, she will have to move on. She gave me a thumbs up like she was approving the loan request. Then she walked off to her platform without looking back. On the train home, I kept thinking about her phone notes. How many guys are listed? How many numbers? How many categories? It felt like she was building a spreadsheet of lives she could climb into. I checked social media later. Her posts were all quotes about leveling up, being carried, not settling. She reposted luxury bags and yachts. A week later, she messaged me asking if I had any updates on my salary. I blocked her. But sometimes I still see her profile through friends of friends. She is always with a new guy, always near expensive places, always smiling like she won something. I never really thought much about first dates. Most of them are just awkward talks, weird laughs, and you both pretend you might see each other again. This one felt off from the start. I met this guy called Liam at a coffee shop near the train station. It was one of those places packed with people who pretend they have important jobs, with laptops open and headphones on. The weather outside was cold, and the windows were foggy, but inside everything smelled like cinnamon and burnt coffee beans. I showed up on time and he was already there, sitting against the wall like he had been there for ages, scrolling on his phone and tapping his foot. The first thing I noticed was that his eyes never stayed still. They kept moving around like he was checking exits and timers. At first, it seemed normal. We talked about random stuff, like where we grew up and what music we like. He sounded confident, maybe too confident. He kept saying he was going to be successful soon and that other people were too slow to keep up. And he said it like he was already famous. Then he brought up something weird. He said he uses first dates to collect important personal details so he knows who to reconnect with once his career takes off. I thought he was just joking, but he started asking for my workplace email, my position at work, who my manager was, what my schedule looked like, and even my work number. It threw me off, but I kept my face straight because I didn't want to seem rude. I tried to turn the conversation back to normal stuff, but he didn't let it go. He leaned in and said that he likes to keep lists of people who could be useful later. He said once he gets to the top, he will reach out to everyone he dated, just to remind them he made it. He kept talking about power, networking, and moving through people. I had my drink in my hand, and I remember staring at the foam like it was the most interesting thing in the world. The whole time, he didn't ask anything about me as a person. It was all about what I do and who I know. We finished our drinks, and he asked if I wanted to get food with him. For some reason, I agreed, but I kept thinking I could bail soon. We walked to a small restaurant 5 minutes away. The inside was quiet, low lights, and walls full of photos of the owner with celebrities I didn't recognize. We sat by the window. The waiter gave us menus, and he didn't even look at his. He told the waiter to give him the usual. That made me wonder how many dates he brings here. When the food arrived, he barely ate. Instead, he started writing stuff down in his notebook, glancing up at me between sentences. I could see names on the page, dates, workplace details, job titles. I spotted my name written with a question mark next to it. He caught me staring and covered the page. He laughed, but it wasn't funny. The way he gripped that notebook made me feel like it was everything to him. Then things got stranger. He said people don't get far unless they have something to hold over others. He talked about how easy it is to track someone through their workplace and how bosses always pick up the phone. He said he already got interviews just by calling random people and acting like he knew them. He even bragged about having addresses of past dates. He said it so calmly, like it was normal. When we left the restaurant, he insisted on walking me to the station. At first, I thought at least it was busy and public, but the walk there felt longer than before. Every street felt empty. His voice was low and serious. He told me success was about leverage. He said people panicked when their information was in the wrong hands. He asked again for my workplace contact details, saying he doesn't want to forget people like me. I told him I didn't know them off by heart. He smirked like he didn't believe me. At the station entrance, he pulled out his phone and pointed it at me. He snapped a photo before I could react. He tapped my name into a notes app and added the picture next to it. I told him to delete it. He didn't even answer. He said this was easier for his tracking. He said one day I would be glad he remembered me. He gave me a slow nod and walked away, leaving me completely still. The buzzing sound of the station monitors felt too loud, and the lights above flickered. People walked past me like nothing was wrong, but my stomach felt tight. When I got home, I kept thinking about that notebook. The names, the dates, the addresses. I wondered how many of those people knew they were written down like items on a shopping list. I tried sleeping, but my phone kept lighting up with notifications. There were friend requests from random accounts, all blank pictures. No posts, just quiet pages watching me. I ignored them, but then an email came through on my work account. It was a request to verify my workplace identity. I stared at my screen frozen. The next day at work, my manager told me someone called saying they were a family member asking what time I finished work. Luckily, the company rules refused to share anything. Over the next week, I started seeing a man watching me near the bus stop. Same hood, same shoes. Every day he stood a bit closer. He never spoke. One evening he followed me halfway home before disappearing when I turned a corner. I stopped going out alone. I left lights on when I tried to sleep. I kept checking the windows. One afternoon the package arrived. No return label, just my name printed on the box. Inside there was a notebook page folded neatly. My name at the top. Under it, my workplace schedule, areas I shop at, train times, and even the color of my umbrella. At the bottom, written in rush handwriting, it read progress. That was all. My phone buzzed right after. Unknown number. A message reminding me he would reconnect once he finally makes it. He said he's getting closer to his goal every day. I blocked the number, but the messages kept coming from new ones. They were always short, always cold, always talking about progress. I moved job roles after that, changed my phone, even changed my route home. Every now and then I still get requests from blank accounts. Sometimes I wake up and feel like someone has been outside my window. My blinds sway a little, but maybe that is just the breeze. I still remember the way he wrote down those details like they were valuable items, like people were just tools. If I see him again, I won't be polite. I won't sit there and sip coffee like nothing is wrong. I keep thinking maybe I'm just one of many. Maybe he sends pages to all of them. Maybe he is keeping track. I did not think this date would be anything serious. It was one of those last-minute decisions where you match with someone, talk for a day, and end up agreeing to meet because you are bored. His name was Daniel, and he suggested this old-style cafe about 10 minutes from the bus station. It was bright inside, a kind of place with old posters on the walls and soft jazz playing. Nothing creepy at first. I got there, grabbed the seat by the window, and watched people rush past outside. When he walked in, he looked normal. Basic jacket, quiet smile, kind of shy looking. I thought it might be fine. The moment he sat down, though, the conversation went straight into something weird. He did not ask about my day or how I was. He said his mother was excited he had a date. Not just happy, excited, like she had been the one talking to me. I laughed awkwardly, but he was serious. He pulled out his phone and showed me a message from his mother telling him to check my hair, my clothes, and how I talk. She wanted updates. He said his mother always picks his girlfriends, and that I might get a message later depending on how she sees me. He said it so casually, like this was normal. I tried to lighten the mood by talking about hobbies, but he spoke about how his mother helped him judge if someone is worth his time. He said she had instincts and could tell if someone would fit into their family. He said his mother has rejected 3 of his old dates, not just saying she did not like them. She messaged them directly and told them to stay away from her son. She blocked one from his phone and forced him to delete pictures. Every sentence brought another layer of red flags. He kept saying his family has a standard. He read stories about relationships and compared them to what his mother teaches him. He said his mother knows better and that women should be approved by parents first. He said he would not continue with anyone unless his mother gives a rating. He used that word rating. He kept checking his phone under the table like he was sending progress notes. I saw the name Mom appear on the screen more than once. She kept asking how tall I looked, if my shoes were clean, if I smelled like smoke. It felt like she was sitting there with us. The waiter came by, and we ordered snacks. While we waited, Daniel leaned forward and told me that his mother might message me later to ask serious questions. He said I should answer quickly and politely. He said she might ask where I live, how many siblings I have, what I work as, how often I go out at night, and if I believe in listening to parents. He said if I answer wrong, she would tell them to reject me. He said reject like we were shopping for clothes. In between bites of food, he talked about his mother's rules. Anyone dating him must be available for Sunday dinners. They must help with chores around their house. They must accept her opinions without arguing. He said she has a say in how long someone can stay out, who they can hang with, what clothes they wear, and what jobs they should apply for. He said his mother always wants to know passwords because privacy is a sign of disloyalty. The food tasted stale just hearing all that. I asked him what he thinks. He said it does not matter because his mother knows best. He said she raised him alone, and now he owes her everything. He said she keeps him safe from bad relationships. He told me his last date cried when she got a message from his mother saying she is not fit for their home, and he did not even comfort her. He said it did not matter because his mother saw something off. We finished eating and he asked if we could take a walk through the park across the street. It was dark by then, street lamps glowing softly. The park was pretty empty. Just a couple walking a dog and someone jogging with headphones. He kept talking about how his mother will add my name to a list she keeps. He said she tracks girls who contact him and remembers everything. If someone tries to come back later, she will know. As we sat on a bench, he said his mother asked for my social media. He already sent her my username. He said she scrolled through my posts and pointed out pictures she did not like. She did not like that I went out late last month. She did not like that I wore bright colors. She did not like that I posted food pictures because it might be expensive. He pulled out his phone and showed me screenshots of his mother's comments. She read through captions and judged my friends. She said one friend looked rude and that I should remove her. I felt exposed. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. He said his mother might want to meet me soon. Not for fun. To see if I can follow instructions. He said she has tests. She might make someone cook for her, clean something, or answer questions about loyalty. He said if you pass, you become part of their circle. If you fail, she blocks you everywhere and warns her relatives about you. He showed me a group chat with aunts and cousins spreading names of girls to avoid. We walked back toward the cafe, and he kept smiling like everything he said was sweet. He compared his mother to a coach. He said relationships are like contracts. He said his mother will message me tonight to check behavior. He said I should answer quickly or she might get angry. He said being slow is disrespectful and could ruin everything. When we reached the entrance, he asked me to look nice for Sunday next week because his mother wants updated pictures. He said she will judge how I stand, how I chew, and how I dress. He said it proudly. Then he held my hand awkwardly and said he hoped I had accepted. He walked away like I had homework. When I got home, I checked my phone. There was a message request from an older woman. The profile picture showed a stern face and sharp glasses. The message asked for details about my childhood, my parents, if I can cook, if I could eventually move closer. Then another message came asking me to remove a certain picture from my profile because it looked messy. She told me she would decide soon if I could continue seeing her son. She asked for a full body picture taken recently. I blocked her. Then I blocked Daniel. But the next morning, I woke up to more messages from different accounts, all asking why I blocked his mother. One said ignoring parents is disrespectful. Another said I ruined my chances. Someone else said his mother marked my name down as unreliable. They kept typing paragraphs about family honor. I blocked them all, but more came. A week later, I got a message from a hidden number. It said I will regret not letting his mother guide me. It said she read my profile again. It said she will warn people. The number texted again later saying she has already sent my name into their family chat list. He finished by saying rejected. I did not plan anything special for this date. I picked a small burger place near a skate park because it felt neutral. People rolled past on boards, kids yelled at each other near the benches, and the street smelled like fries and petrol. I was early again, sitting at a table near the window. I kept checking my phone because she texted that she was close. The place was busy enough that nobody stared at me, which I liked. I was bored, so I looked at the pictures on the wall, mostly old sports teams and random people holding trophies. Nothing crazy. She walked in 5 minutes later. Hoodie, messy ponytail, big headphones around her neck. She looked around and waved like we've already hung out before. She sat down fast and tossed her bag on the seat next to her. I noticed she kept glancing behind me toward the window like she was waiting for something. I thought she was nervous. I tried to start normal conversation. Weather, food, whatever. She cut me off and said she hoped this date would go better than her last, but if it did not, it was fine because her ex was waiting outside. I blinked. I thought she meant waiting somewhere else, but she pointed at my shoulder toward the window. I turned my head a little, and I saw a guy leaning on a black car parked right outside. He stared into the building like he had a reason to keep watch. I did not say anything at first. I just kind of nodded because my brain did not know how to respond yet. She opened her menu like nothing was wrong. We ordered food, and the waiter moved fast between tables. I tried to ignore the weirdness, but she started talking again. She said living alone is hard, rent is high, and it makes sense to live with her ex. She said to share a room to save money. She said it casually, like someone talking about laundry. She told me they have rules about who can bring dates into the apartment so nobody gets jealous. She said sometimes they sleep in the same bed when they are too tired to argue about space. I chewed slower and stared at her. I asked why they broke up if they still lived together. She said they were better off as friends. She said they understand each other. She said it was cheaper. She tapped her fingers on the table and kept smiling, like she wanted me to ask more. I tried not to. She said most guys run when she tells them this, but she likes honesty girly. I said nothing. The burger in front of me suddenly tasted dry. Every couple minutes, she checked her phone. She would text fast, then tilt her head to look at me. I heard a buzz, then another buzz, and she muted it. She said her ex gets bored easily and wanted updates about how the date was going. She said he is very protective and likes to know who she is with. She took a picture of my face without asking and sent it. I leaned back in my chair, but she acted like it was nothing. The guy outside leaned in closer to the window. He crossed his arms and stared like I owed him money. The cars rolled by and blocked his view sometimes, but he always stepped to the side. It was creepy. I told her I thought it was weird. She shrugged and said that if I became her boyfriend, I would get used to him. She said nobody understands her like he does. She listed stuff he does for her. Buys food, drives her places, pays some of her bills, watches her sleep sometimes when she gets nightmares. She smiled heavy when she said that. I forced a small laugh. Our food came. She ate fast, barely chewing. She dipped fries in ranch and tapped her feet like she needed to leave soon. She talked and talked. She said she would need help covering some utility payments if we ever dated. She said rent was too high for one person, and her ex could not handle it all. She said I would make that easier. I blinked again because I was trying to process every sentence she threw at me. She did not care if I was stunned. She waved at the window. Her ex waved back. She grinned like it was cute. I picked up my drink and stared at the ice. She kept asking questions about my job, my income, my schedule, my sleep habits, how close I lived to my parents, and if I would be willing to help move furniture if she switched apartments. She wrote numbers on a napkin like she was building a plan. She pointed at them like I should memorize them. When we finished eating, she grabbed her bag and told me we should take a walk. I nodded slowly. The skate park lights flickered as the sun went down. Kids rolled across the pavement. I followed her outside. Her ex pushed himself off the car and walked toward us. He did not smile. He kept his hands in his pockets. She hugged him like they were still together. He stared at me over her shoulder. It felt like a challenge. She said they needed to talk for a second and walked a few feet away with him, whispering. I stood near a trash can pretending to read an ad sticker on it. People walked past me like I was invisible. I heard bits of their voices. She said something about how I seemed normal. He said something about boundaries. They argued quietly but kept glancing at me like I was a stray cat. They walked back and she said they wanted to stop by her apartment so I could see where she lived. I said no. She frowned like I insulted her. Her ex stepped forward, asking if I had a problem. I shook my head. He stood so close I could smell his cologne. He asked if I thought I was better than him. I said I just had to go home. She rolled her eyes and said I was dramatic. She asked if at least I could buy Miss Nuggets for them on the way. I said no again. She sighed and said she would not text me again. Her ex smiled like he won. They walked away, arms brushing while they talked about something I could not hear. I turned and walked toward the train station. My heart beat fast and my hands felt cold, but I kept walking. I looked back once, and her ex was staring at me over her head while she talked. He did not blink. When I got home, she sent one message saying it could have worked if I tried harder. I ignored it. I blocked her. The next day, I got a friend request from a profile picture of her ex leaning on the same car. I deleted it fast. That night, I heard a car outside my window. I peeked and saw a car parked across the street. Someone sat inside with their phone glow on their face. I turned off my light and crawled into bed quietly. They did not text again after that. I moved on. But whenever I see a black car near a restaurant, I check the window twice before sitting down. I knew something was slightly off the moment I got there. It was this weird vibe you catch right before you even sit down. I got to the small street food market near the canal and I saw him already waiting at one of the outdoor tables. He was smiling like he was proud of something I could not see yet. It was my first time meeting him and I thought this little place would be chill and different from the boring chain spots everyone goes to. I thought small crowds and good food would help me not feel weird about the whole first date thing. I had been on enough awkward ones to know how much a quiet setting matters. As soon as I sat down, he leaned forward like he had been rehearsing something he was excited to share. That was the hook. That moment where your brain tells you to run, but you ignore it. He started telling me about how he plans his dates based on who will pay for him. It was like he just opened his mouth and dropped the worst confession with no shame. He said he had not spent his own money on food in months, and it was almost like he was bragging about it. I thought maybe he was joking, but his face stayed serious. He kept going, explaining how he lines up 2 or 3 dates a week depending on how hungry he is. I was sitting there trying not to lose my mind because I could not believe he was telling me this like it was clever. He said girls do not notice because he keeps everything short and casual so he does not get attached. I just nodded and pretended to listen, but inside I was already regretting leaving the house. Around us, the food market was busy, music playing lightly from some cheap speakers, smoke drifting from the grills. People were laughing, talking, having a regular night. It felt normal out there, but I was stuck at this table listening to him talk about using people for dinner. He started checking his phone every 2 minutes like he was waiting for an order or something. After a while, he said he hoped I was planning to grab food soon because he had not eaten all day. He said starving himself before a date makes it worth more. I just stared at the menu, thinking about how insane that sounded. I slowly realized the only reason he matched with me was because I mentioned I liked trying different foods. We walked around to the stalls and he did not even ask what I liked. He pointed at the most expensive things and kept making comments about how he always gets the big plates. I started feeling like I was not on a date but stuck in some social trap. He kept bragging about how easy it is to get free meals if you talk smooth enough. He said he even had a list of spots where staff do not care if you hang around for ages. The way he talked made me feel like just another name in some cycle he ran each week. The food smelled good, but I lost my appetite. The stall owner passed us our plates, and he instantly walked off without paying. I felt embarrassed and rushed to cover it, hoping the owner did not think I was like him. He sat down again, already eating like he had not tasted food in days. I asked him about his job just to change the subject, but he said he never keeps work for long because he gets bored. He said cutting costs by dating for meals keeps him from needing full-time hours. He did not show any thought about the people he used to get that advantage. Every response from him was focused on what he could get next. Halfway through the meal, he leaned back and gave me this weird grin. He said he had another date booked right after ours. He pointed at a girl sitting alone near the fountain and said she was next. I did not know what to say. He even said the girl after her was waiting on the bridge nearby. That was when the reality hit me. He had built an entire schedule around draining strangers. He listed their names, the food spots they liked, and hints on how to convince them to pay. I was listening like someone listening to a horror story, but I was inside of it. His phone vibrated and he got up. He waved to a woman walking toward the fountain like it was a business handoff. He turned back to me, telling me I should hurry if I wanted dessert because he was heading to the next table soon. He did not thank me or say anything normal. He just acted like this was how dating worked. My stomach twisted. The woman he waved to smiled and went for a hug. It looked like she genuinely thought she was meeting someone kind. He walked away and sat with her while still finishing his food. He had 2 plates stacked on his table now. She looked happy. I watched her staring at him with trust while he scrolled on his phone. I started seeing the full picture. He was not just cheap. He was feeding off people. Literally, he built a lifestyle from draining dates while they did not even realize it. They thought they were building something while he was calculating calories and cost. Then someone else walked up behind him. Another guy, older and annoyed. He tapped him on the shoulder and said he had been waiting. My date stood up and handed him a takeout box I swear he must have grabbed during our walk. It was planned. The guy walked off eating it. Then from another table someone else waved. My date waved back. They were waiting too. He was running a whole chain of free food delivery fueled by dates. They were all just pieces. The girl looked confused now. She watched all of that and pushed her plate away. I did not stay long. I left my half-eaten plate and walked fast toward the street. As I got to the road, I saw 2 more girls arriving, all smiling, all thinking this was their night. They headed toward the fountain. And there he was, moving between tables like some street market ghost, eating, collecting, smiling, rotating, never paying. The streetlights reflected off the canal, and for a second, I saw how long this could go on. People being used without even realizing. I left and deleted his number before I even got to the bus stop. I got home and checked the app. His profile was still active, still matching. It was like watching someone cast a net you did not see until you were already tangled inside. I do not know how many more he tricked after me, but I still think about that crowded night. The smell of food, the sound of plates, and him drifting from table to table with an empty wallet and a full stomach. I met this guy on this app because my friend kept saying I need to stop wasting time texting people who vanish. His pictures looked all right, and he seemed normal enough, so we agreed to meet at this coffee shop near the train station. It was one of those places with dim yellow lights and wooden chairs that scrape the floor loud every time someone moves. When I walked in, he was already there, sitting with his back straight like he was modeling for a chair advert. He saw me and waved once, then just stared. The first thing I noticed was how his eyes scanned me head to toe, not even trying to hide it. It wasn't a compliment kind of look. It felt like he was checking stock in a warehouse. When I sat down, he didn't even start with anything normal. He just studied my hoodie and jeans like I broke some rule already. We ordered drinks, and the whole time he was staring. He asked me what made me pick that outfit. I just shrugged, saying it was comfortable, but he tilted his head like I made a mistake. He said he only dates women who dress a certain way. At first I laughed because I thought he was joking, but he wasn't smiling. He pulled out his phone and showed me his gallery, full of screenshots of outfits women wore on dates with him. He zoomed in on dresses and skirts and shoes like he was some fashion judge. He pointed out which ones passed his standards. I was already uncomfortable, but it got worse fast. He said next time I meet him, he wants me to wear something more feminine. He said it calmly like he thought I'd automatically agree. I kind of froze because I didn't expect to be graded on my clothes. Before I could even answer, he started scrolling through an online store and showing me outfits he thinks would suit me. He said he could send links. He said he had rules. Rules for his dates. Rules about clothing. Rules about hair. He even said he didn't like hoodies on women because they covered the shape too much. The drinks came and he leaned back like he was done judging. But then he asked me to stand up so he could see the full outfit again. I hesitated and looked around, but nobody cared. I stood because I didn't want to escalate anything, but he narrowed his eyes like he was taking mental notes. He typed something on his phone. He actually logged my outfit in some sort of list. He said next time, I must change everything. He said the word must like he had any power over me. I sat back down slowly and tried to act like this was still normal. Then he told me about his dating process. He said he gives each girl 3 chances. First date is outfit evaluation. Second date is personality alignment. Third date is obedience, his word, not mine. He said after that, he decides if she can continue. I just stared at his bland expression thinking who even talks like this. He said most girls fail the outfit stage. He said women nowadays don't care how they present themselves. He said he hates uncontrolled fashion. He said it like he was defending some philosophy. He pulled up notes on his phone. I saw multiple names with outfit ratings next to them. He even tracked brands. He said one girl wore a cheap jacket and that was unacceptable. He kept scanning my hoodie like it offended him. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. He said if I didn't care how I looked on a first date, then how would I look 3 months in? It wasn't what he said, it was how he looked at me like I was already failing. He asked if I owned heels. I said not really. He frowned and typed something into his phone. He asked if I could start wearing dresses. He said it would help my posture. He asked if I could take pictures of outfits before the next date so he could approve them. He expected it like this was a contract. I kept giving half answers because I just wanted to finish the drink and leave. The cafe felt smaller by the minute. Then he talked about his past dates. He said he once stopped seeing a girl because her outfit colors didn't complement her hair shade. He said he made another girl turn around and go home to change once. He laughed telling these stories like they were funny. They weren't. He even said some girls tried to argue, but he doesn't tolerate pushback. Hearing him talk like that made me imagine him standing in a room directing people like puppets. He looked around the cafe judging everyone. He commented on a random girl who wore sweats. He said she must have no self-respect. He whispered about a woman's shoes like he wanted to fix her wardrobe. He viewed clothing like it defined the person. He said his ideal partner would dress according to guidelines. He said guidelines like he had a manual somewhere. He asked if I was willing to adjust. It wasn't a question. It was a test. When I said something about wearing what makes me comfortable, he stared at the table. He didn't blink for a while. Then he typed something again. He said I already failed outfit stage 1. He pulled up a rating screen on his phone and showed it to me without shame. He gave me a 2 out of 10 in clothes and a 5 in potential improvement. He said he might give me another chance if I put effort in. He said effort like I was applying for a job. Before we finished our drinks, he said next time we meet, I must wear something he approves. He recommended a dress length and color. He even said what shoes. He said he doesn't date women who refuse. He asked if I understood. I nodded because I was still trying to be polite, but inside I wanted to run out. He said we can meet again, but only if I show him outfit samples first. When we left the cafe, he didn't walk me anywhere. He just stopped outside, nodded once, and walked off fast. It was like business. I stood there on the sidewalk thinking about how weird that whole thing was. People walked past me like nothing happened. I went home and blocked him, but I couldn't stop thinking about his phone full of outfit notes, his rating system, his weird strict tone. The next day, I noticed he posted something on his profile about how modern women lack style discipline. I knew he was talking about me. He said his standards are a test and women keep failing. He wrote it like he was some superior judge controlling a fashion army. It's strange how someone can look normal on the outside, but be that controlling on the inside. Sometimes when I pick clothes now, I think about that night, just for a second, then I push it away. It's crazy how someone's personal rules can follow you even when you don't want them to. I'm just glad I never showed him another outfit. I never thought dinner could feel like a competition, but the second I sat down across from her in that weird rooftop restaurant, I could tell something was off. The place wasn't fancy, just high up with glass panels around the edges, fake plants everywhere, and soft music playing. The wind up there made this quiet whistling sound against the railing. She waved at me quickly, eyes locked on her phone like it was more important than air. I slid into my seat and tried to start normal small talk, but she kept tapping her screen like she was texting a group chat in a crisis. I tried brushing it off at first. People text. Whatever. But she didn't look up. Not once. The waiter came. She ordered without even raising her head, scrolling and typing crazy fast. Her nails clicked against her phone screen nonstop like a metronome in a quiet room. I noticed she had 3 dating apps open at the same time. I pretended not to stare, but it was impossible. She had different chats open, different names, and little hearts popping up. When the drinks came, she glanced at me for the first time, but only to say something wild. She casually said she schedules overlapping dates every week, and whoever pays first gets the full evening. She said it like she was proud of it, like she invented some system that made her smarter than everyone else. I didn't even know how to respond. I just sat there confused while she tapped her phone again. Then it started. Guys messaging her asking where she was, sending screenshots of their location, trying to prove they were close. She said she usually seats them at different tables sometimes and watches them like she's monitoring progress. She told me she already had 2 other guys on their way right now. While she said that, she looked at her phone again and smiled at a message. The way she smiled was strange. Not happy. More like she was winning something. Our starters came. She barely touched hers. She typed and typed. Meanwhile, I sat there feeling like a backup plan. She asked if I had my card ready, not even joking. She said some guys hesitate to pay right away, and it annoys her. She kept glancing toward the elevator that led up to the restaurant, like she was waiting for someone to walk out any second. Every time the door dinged, she perked up. Then she sighed and went right back to texting. She leaned in a little and explained her so-called strategy. She said she books 2 to 4 guys within walking distance of each other and times them so she can bounce between tables. She said whoever pays the full bill fastest gets her attention. She even bragged about how she once made someone pay before even sitting down properly. She talked like she was running some competition show. She didn't care if she sounded cold. She thought it was clever. Midway through the meal, her phone started buzzing nonstop. She opened one chat and said something like, "Hurry, I'm hungry." Then she looked at me and asked what I planned to order next. Before I could answer, she typed something else to someone else. She told me she doesn't stay with someone long if they stall. Stall was her word. Then she looked at my drink, as if judging how fast I was consuming things, like she was timing me. I checked around the restaurant. A guy by the window kept looking our way nervously. He looked like he recognized her. I saw her glance at him once, then ignore him. Another ding from her phone. She sighed and said another guy couldn't make it, so it was down to me and one more. She literally said down to you too like it was a final round. She tapped her foot while scrolling. She asked if I was planning to pay full or split. I said I didn't know yet. She frowned and typed something again. She explained her rules. If someone pays by the end of the starters, she stays for dessert. If someone pays drinks and mains, she leaves early but maybe sees them again. She tracks everything in this note folder on her phone. She stores who pays fastest, who hesitates, who tries to argue. She said she likes to get something out of every date. She said people waste her time, so she created a system. Listening to her talk made my brain tired. Then something weird happened. The guy by the window stood up and walked toward us slowly. He kept glancing at her and then turned back to his seat like he lost confidence. I saw her glance over at him again. She typed something on her phone. His phone buzzed across the room. He checked it and sat back down. His shoulders dropped. She smirked. The control she got over random people was freaky. When the mains arrived, she scrolled again. Another ding from the elevator. A tall guy stepped out and looked around. He made eye contact with her. She gave him the tightest nod and held up one finger like telling him to wait. He sat at a table near the bar. He looked nervous too. I realized I wasn't alone in this event. I was part of some selection process she built out of boredom. She told me she thinks guys should earn her attention. She never looked embarrassed. She said she once made 3 guys buy her meals in the same night. She said if one tries to leave without paying, she blocks him and moves on. She said she never cooks at home. She said dating apps are her meal plan. She laughed at herself like she just told the best joke. Then came the check for our mains. Without thinking, I hesitated. That hesitation cost something. She watched my eyes stare at the total. She noticed everything. She tapped her phone. The guy at the bar suddenly stood, rushed to her, and handed his card to the waiter. She smiled warmly at him, something she never did with me. Then she turned to me, tapped twice on her phone screen, and said something like "You took too long." She grabbed her jacket, stood up, and walked toward the guy at the bar. She didn't even look back. The waiter arrived with a split bill placed right in front of me. I sat there stunned with leftover food and awkward silence. I saw her sit with the other guy. She was laughing at something he said, but kept texting. I noticed she was messaging someone else still, probably arranging dessert at another table. It felt like watching a machine process data nonstop. As I paid, the guy by the window got up and left quietly. He avoided her eyes, face red. Maybe he had been through this before. Maybe he paid once and passed some early round, but lost a later one. When I went to leave, I saw her already typing something new. She waved me off with a lazy hand flick like I was another line on her phone. I walked to the elevator and listened as the doors closed. The silence felt heavy. When I went home later, she had unmatched me. Her profile bio changed. It said something about efficiency. It said dinner winners only. It bothered me more than it should have. Knowing she moved on before my receipt even printed felt creepy. I kept picturing all those guys at different tables waiting for a chance to buy food just to earn her attention. It made dating feel like some weird auction. Now every time my phone dings at dinner, I look twice, just to make sure I'm not becoming another name in someone's meal plan. I knew something was strange from the second he walked into that loud food court in the mall. The place was packed with families, groups of teenagers running around, and the noise of trays sliding on plastic counters. I picked that spot because it felt safe and open, not dark like a quiet bar. Louis showed up 5 minutes late, holding his phone tight in his hand like it was glued to him. He sat down, barely looked at me, and started laughing at something on his screen. Not a tiny laugh either, but the type that makes people turn around and stare. I just sat there awkward with a chicken burger and fries, watching him slap his knee like he read a joke that only he could understand. When he finally looked at me, he smiled in this weird, proud way, like he already won something. He said he likes meeting people in crowded places because it gives him more content. I didn't know what that meant yet. We ordered some drinks, and while we waited, he kept typing super fast. His thumb speed looked unreal. I could see the little flashes of message previews on his lock screen, and they all had names next to them. Names with emojis and nicknames. He hid nothing. Eventually, he smirked like he was about to tell me something important. He said he doesn't use dating apps to actually date. He only uses them to collect stories for his group chat. He told me straight. He said his friends love hearing about the weird stuff people do, and he's become the guy who brings the best stories. He said he's been doing it for years. At first, I thought he was joking, but his eyes didn't look like someone joking. He had this calm, confident way of saying it, like he built some award-winning hobby out of people's awkwardness. He pointed to his phone and said everything for people's clothes, reactions, orders, how they sit, what they complain about. He wrote it all down later. He even showed me a note titled Season 5. Inside it, he had bullet points about different girls and the strange things they said. One girl didn't like cheese. One girl walked weird. Another one asked too many questions. He listed them all in categories like he was collecting traits. It was creepy seeing strangers turned into jokes and stories like they were characters in some show. While we talked, his phone never stopped lighting up. He said his group chat was waiting for updates right now. He even typed something quickly like first impressions. Hoodie, nervous energy, average fries grab. The fact he wrote fries grab made me freeze for a second. I didn't even know he noticed how I held them. It made me hyper aware of every movement. I suddenly didn't know what to do with my hands. He said he promises them chapter-style summaries after every date, no matter what happens. Good or bad, funny or boring. He said he's so deep into it that he can't stop now. The food came. He took a picture of my plate before his. No warning. No asking. He said the group chat loves to judge what people eat. He typed something about portion control and sauce choices. I couldn't tell if he was serious or just messing with me, but the way his fingers flew across the screen felt too practiced. Then he started telling me stories about other dates, laughing while I listened. Some were kind of silly, but others made me feel weird. He once read that a girl made a small nervous laugh, and he wrote that she sounded like a squeaky toy. His friends apparently made memes about it. He said he collects screenshots of dates' profiles after meetings, saving them into folders labeled by month. He scrolled through a file of pictures like someone showing off a holiday album. He pointed at one girl, laughed, and said she spilled pasta on herself, and everyone in his group chat called her Noodle Girl for 2 months. Hearing him say it so casually made my stomach twist. He didn't care about how anyone felt. To him, everyone he met was material. He kept asking me random questions, not deep questions, just small, weird ones. How quickly I eat. How many pillows I sleep with. If I swing my arms when I walk. He said random tiny details make the funniest content. He wanted something to stand out. At one point, he even asked if I could purposely drop something because clumsy stories get good reactions. I sat there not wanting to move. The whole time his screen buzzed nonstop. He replied quietly under the table sometimes, smiling while he read answers. Halfway through, he said he already started writing my notes. He flipped his screen around and showed me a small paragraph about me in real time. He had written about how I tapped my knee when the place got loud. He wrote about the way I paused before dipping fries in sauce. He analyzed things a normal person wouldn't even notice. It felt like being watched by a camera. I asked if he would delete it, and he shrugged. He said it's already in the chat. He even said he might add details later tonight when he relaxes at home. I looked around the food court again. Everything felt too bright and too loud now. People walked past us laughing with friends, unaware that this guy was turning lids into entertainment behind the screen. He said sometimes he combines two people into one story just to make it funnier. He said he exaggerates things because no one will ever know. He said privacy doesn't matter anymore. He said group chats are private worlds with no rules. When we finished eating, he leaned forward and asked me to do something quirky to help his story end strong. He suggested I clap once loudly or ask the waiter something weird. He said cliffhangers are important. I shook my head, but he shrugged and said it's fine. He can write that I refused. He typed that too. He described how I looked confused and stiff. He made this grin like he was adding the last ingredient to a recipe. Then he stood up before I did. He said he needed to meet his friend in the parking lot to recap. He didn't wait for a goodbye. He just grabbed his bag and walked away while typing with both thumbs. I sat there with my empty tray, watching him disappear into the crowd like he was never here. When I walked out later, I saw him leaning against a car, laughing with two guys. One pointed at me. They both smirked. That's when it hit me. I wasn't out on a date that night. I was paperwork. When I got home, I checked the app. He had matched me already. His profile picture changed to something else, probably ready to match someone new. Somewhere in a group chat full of laughing strangers, my habits, food choice, clothes, and awkward silence were becoming entertainment. And there was nothing I could do to erase it. I thought meeting her at that quiet street food market would be chill. It was late afternoon, still bright out, and the place smelled like fried stuff and spices. People walked around carrying plastic trays. Music was playing from a tiny speaker next to a taco stand, and the whole vibe felt relaxed. She waved me over from a picnic bench like she was waiting forever. She looked normal, hoodie and trainers, holding a can of soda. Nothing screamed weird. I sat down and tried to start a normal conversation, but she kept glancing at the parking lot behind us like she was tracking something. We ordered some food and sat back down. She asked about my car pretty quick, like way too quick. She wanted to know the year, the model, how fast it goes, and how far I drive each week. I thought maybe she was into cars or something, but her questions didn't even sound like a hobby. It sounded like she was filling out a form. She leaned forward and asked if I knew back roads around the city. I said yeah, a few, because GPS sucks sometimes. She nodded like I gave her the exact answer she wanted. We ate for a few minutes silently, then she dropped something weird. She said she only dates men with cars. I laughed once because I thought she was joking, but she stared straight at me without moving. She said it's better that way because she can learn new routes around the city. She said she does deliveries late at night for extra money and needs to memorize shortcuts. It sounded strange, but not super crazy yet. Until she told me she picks different guys from different parts of the city so she can learn their routes and habits. She said everyone drives differently and she likes watching patterns. She started pointing out roads on her phone map, zooming in and scribbling with her finger like she was planning something. She said she learns best by riding in the passenger seat and watching turns and landmarks. She said she's gotten really fast at deliveries because of guys she dated before. The way she talked about them didn't sound romantic. It sounded like she was testing cars. She described one dude who drove too slow, one who got nervous near roundabouts, one who missed a turn and ruined her whole pattern. She kept track of every route mentally, almost like she was building her own private map. Then she asked me to drive her around after we finished eating. Not somewhere fun. She said she wanted to practice. Practice was the word she used. She said she had 4 new roads she wanted to memorize tonight. She pulled out a small notebook full of scribbles and arrows. It looked like something a taxi driver would carry. She said she marks progress by keeping track of how many turns she remembers by heart later. I sat there trying to smile, but inside my chest got tight. I only met her 15 minutes ago, and she already had this whole plan. She kept talking, explaining her night delivery job. She works for some app, but not the normal type. She said she delivers packages between shops and storage units, mostly quiet areas. She said she makes more money the faster she finishes. Then she said something odd. She said she's gotten offers from certain people to deliver privately at night because she's fast and discreet. She said speed matters more than anything and knowing back routes makes her valuable. It all sounded like a job that shouldn't be happening, but she sounded proud. She said dating men with cars gave her advantage. She talked like she took notes on how each person handles traffic lights and speed bumps. She asked if my car had good brakes. She asked if I ever drove through alleyways. She asked if I ever took shortcuts behind supermarkets. It wasn't flirting. It was interviewing. After we finished eating, she stood up and tugged my sleeve lightly, telling me to get up. She said we should get started. I hesitated but followed her toward the parking lot. She hopped into the passenger seat like she owned it. She buckled up fast and told me to start driving west. No explanation. She looked at her phone map and pointed directions left and right. Every time I missed a turn, she sighed like I was wasting her time. She started marking things in her notebook. We drove through narrow back streets, past groups of people hanging near corners down roads I'd never seen before. She pointed at graffiti tags and said they're good landmarks because they don't change often. She counted how many lampposts were on one street. She noticed how the road curved near an abandoned shop. She memorized every detail. Watching her eyes scan everything made me nervous. She tapped her foot nonstop, whispering street names under her breath. Then she asked me to stop near a dead end. She got out, walked 10 feet down, looked at the wall, nodded, and came back. She said that wall is new. She said she needs to remember how deliveries will be blocked in the future if someone closes off paths. I didn't know what that meant. She told me to drive again. We pulled into this quiet industrial estate. It was dark except for a flickering light in the distance. She told me to slow down near a warehouse. She stared at a loading bay like she was expecting something. Then she wrote down times on her notebook. She said she tracks when trucks arrive and leave. She said speed matters. We finally reached a long road near the river. It was empty and quiet. She asked me to wait with the engine off. She looked out at the water and smiled. She said she loves knowing secrets about roads and how to move through the city better than anyone else. She said knowledge like that can make you useful. Her voice dropped when she said useful. On the way back, she asked if I'd be willing to drive again next week. She said she has a list of routes she still needs to learn. She said if I help her long enough, she'll be ahead of her competition. She said fast drivers are rare. She said some guys got scared and stopped helping, but others stuck around for a while. She didn't say where they are now. She just shrugged. When we got back to the parking lot, she didn't even say goodbye properly. She scribbled a few final notes, thanked me for my car, and walked away without looking back. I watched her disappear into a side street. She moved like she knew exactly where she was going without checking her phone. When I checked the app later, she unmatched me, like I served my purpose, just data for her routes. Now every time I drive at night and take a random shortcut, I think about her eyes scanning streets. I wonder how many people she's collected, how many roads she knows that nobody else does, how many deliveries she's done quietly in the dark, and how deep her notebook goes. I met him outside this frozen yogurt place in a small neighborhood I barely go to. It wasn't busy, just a few families sitting around and a couple of teenagers hanging by the bench near the bus stop. The whole area felt slow, like everyone knew each other. He waved at me as I walked up, casual smile, one hand in his pocket like he wasn't bothered about anything. We grabbed our bowls and sat at this wobbly metal table near the entrance. At first it felt normal enough. He talked about his job, how he hated the early mornings, random stuff like that. But every few seconds, He looked around at people walking past like he was waiting for someone to react to something. We started eating, and he asked where I live. I just pointed toward the general blocks behind us. He grinned like that detail mattered way too much. Then he told me something weird, not even trying to hide it. He said he's been dating multiple women in the same area on purpose. He said it's interesting to watch how fast trauma spreads. I stared at him thinking he was joking, but he nodded at this lady walking her dog and whispered that she knows another girl that he saw last week. He said if he waves at her, she'll tell someone, who will tell someone else, and he likes watching the reactions. He said he learns how neighborhoods work by dating inside them. If one person posts something online, he can trace who saw it and how fast gossip travels. He laughed like he discovered some science experiment. I asked why he even cares about that, and he shrugged, saying it's entertaining. He kept mentioning how he caused entire friend groups to fall out over rumors. He said once he complimented someone's shoes, and that tiny compliment turned into a rumor about cheating across 3 streets. He said it's like watching a match hit dry grass. I tried steering the conversation away, but he leaned forward and asked if anyone around here might know me. He pointed at the yogurt shop worker, then the family, then the teenagers. He asked if any of them could connect us later. He said he doesn't aim for long relationships. He's after reactions. He said once rumors start, he sits at home and watches them travel through public stories and mutual friends lists. He bragged about how one girl blocked 3 of her friends because she thought someone was stealing him. He smirked telling that story like he was proud. While we ate, a girl walked past and looked at him weird. He lifted his spoon and tapped it twice on the table. She scoffed quietly and walked faster. He whispered that she's from the same area too. He dated her twice. She found out about another girl down the street, and it caused arguments in her house. Then he pointed at a building across the road, saying another girl lives there on the 2nd floor. He said he visited her 2 days ago. He explained how he times everything so the chances of them crossing paths increase. Hearing him talk like that made me feel like I stepped into a social trap without noticing. He started asking random questions. Do I post online a lot? Do I tell friends whenever someone new talks to me? How fast do I respond to messages? He said these details matter. He said the faster someone spreads information, the more intense the drama becomes. He said this neighborhood is slow. Some areas are faster. He looked disappointed like he thought this place would be more fun. Suddenly, he asked if I told anyone about tonight. When I said I mentioned it to one friend, he smiled. He said give it a few days and watch something weird pop up in group chats. He sits back and observes. The family eating yogurt left, and he watched them walk down the sidewalk. He whispered that the dad once confronted him because he walked past their house too many times, but he kept doing it anyway. He said the dad's reaction spread quicker than anything else that month. He knows because someone from 3 streets away messaged him asking questions. He shook his head like he was proud of the speed. Then he started sketching little circles on a napkin. He drew them close together and labeled them mentally. He pointed to spots where drama hits hardest. He called them hot zones. He said if someone spots him sitting with a new girl at the bus stop, it's guaranteed to travel. He said last time he did that, 2 girls turned up at different times just to stare. He said all he had to do was sit. The drama created itself. He asked if I wanted to take a quick walk with him. I agreed because I didn't want to look scared. We walked past small houses and narrow paths. Every other person seemed to look at him with either confusion or annoyance. He whispered little details about each person, like he memorized everyone's roles. He pointed at someone unlocking their door and said she once told her cousin about him, and that cousin told their group chat, and it blew up. He said he loves watching screenshots get passed around. He even said he can tell when someone is going to panic post by the way they talk. As we turned a corner, 2 girls sitting on a bench looked straight at us and whispered to each other loudly on purpose. One pulled her phone out. He stared back, smiled, and waved. They immediately texted. He nudged me, saying watch where that message goes. He said they'll message someone named K first, because she's on her phone all the time. K will message someone named T, who will message someone else. He said give it 2 hours and someone I know will ask who I was with. He didn't sound jealous. He sounded excited. He said he used to write down timestamps to see how long it took from first sight to first rumor. He said his record is 27 minutes. He bragged about it like a personal sport. I asked if he feels bad for ruining friendships. He shrugged and said he's not forcing anyone to talk. He said drama reveals who spreads from panic. He said he thinks they'll spread something about me because I look unfamiliar. He said unfamiliar people spark faster reactions. As we walked back, he pointed at random houses saying things like she knows her through that cousin, and they go to that gym with that other girl. He drew invisible lines in the air like he was connecting dots. He said living here is like watching water move through tiny cracks. Once one drop falls, it runs in every direction. Back at the yogurt place, he sat down again and said he's curious about my reaction. He said if I get annoyed, the drama spreads differently. If I ignore it, it fades slower. If I talk back, it explodes. He said he predicts within 3 days someone will mention my name in a chat he doesn't even know. He likes that part the most. When we finished, he stood up and said if things get messy, I should just watch. He said don't jump in too fast. He walked away without even looking at me again, just slid into a side street and disappeared behind a corner. Later that night, I got a message from someone I haven't spoken to in months asking if I was out with someone near that yogurt shop. Then I got another from someone else asking if I knew a certain girl. It snowballed out of nowhere. Posts started appearing on random story feeds. People I barely know viewed my profile nonstop, all because I sat down for frozen yogurt with him. I met her at this tiny diner tucked behind a petrol station, the kind of place with faded posters and a neon sign that buzzed loudly like it was trying to stay alive. I picked it because it seemed quiet and safe, not too packed, and the food smelled decent from outside. When I walked in, she was already sitting in a booth near the window, tapping her phone with both thumbs like she was answering 10 messages at once. She looked up when I approached, smiled real quick, then went right back to typing. I slid into the seat across from her, trying to ignore the loud buzzing light overhead. We ordered milkshakes and burgers, and while we waited, she kept glancing at her phone and laughing quietly to herself. At first, I thought she was talking to close friends or something harmless. When I tried bringing up random topics, she nodded without looking away like she was half here and half somewhere else. Then she dropped her phone on the table suddenly and said she runs a private group chat. I asked what kind, expecting something boring like recipes or deals. She smirked and leaned closer. She said it's a review group, but not restaurants, not movies, dates. She called it her critic circle. She said every girl in the chat writes reviews about their dates, scoring people based on outfits, voice, posture, and how they eat. She said they post red flags, weird habits, and tiny flaws, and everyone votes on who had the funniest story that week. She said she's undefeated 5 weeks in a row. She sounded proud like she won trophies. I stared at her, thinking she might be joking. She wasn't. She pulled up the chat and scrolled through messages so fast I barely caught anything. But I saw a picture of a guy holding pasta wrong, a voice note of someone breathing too loud, and a list of bullet points about someone's eyebrows. The group laughed through text like they were watching a comedy show. She told me straight she plans to post about me later, no matter how this goes. She said every detail counts. Our food came, and she immediately took pictures of my plate. She angled it like she was styling food for a magazine. She zoomed in on how I stacked fries, then typed something while smiling to herself. She said presentation matters. Then she stared at the way I held my burger. She nodded slow like she was confirming something. She typed again. It felt like being observed through a microscope. I tried ignoring it and focused on eating, but she kept whispering notes out loud, testing how phrases sounded. Stuff like inconsistent bite sizes and questionable condiment placement. She even commented on how many napkins I grabbed. I started feeling stiff. Natural movements felt wrong. Suddenly, the diner felt hotter and smaller. She asked questions like she was gathering material. What music I listened to, how long I take to fall asleep, how often I clean my ears. Weirdly specific things. When I took a sip of my milkshake, she tapped her pen to her teeth. She said one guy slurped his drink too loudly and got roasted for 2 days. She asked if I could slurp once. Just once. I froze. I said no quietly, and she typed something like avoid simple requests. She didn't even hide her screen. Her friends were responding instantly. Little laughing faces kept popping up. She said they already like me as content. Across the diner, 2 women kept glancing our way. I thought maybe she was around here. She noticed and waved at them like she was famous. She whispered that they were older members of the chat. They meet sometimes in person and watch dates live for bonus points. That sentence hit me weird. I looked again and saw one of them pretending to scroll her phone, but staring at us through the corner of her eye. The other one wrote something on a napkin and smirked. She then said she looks for patterns. She said introverts are extra fun to write about because of small habits. She asked if I bite my nails. When I said sometimes, she clapped once like she just won something. She typed faster. She explained how the chat has categories: grooming, posture, hand movement, chewing speed, awkward silence, nervous tics. When someone wins, they all add emojis and write paragraphs roasting the guy. Mid-meal, she asked me to stand up and walk to the jukebox. She said she needs to see my walking posture for accuracy. At that point, I didn't know if refusing would make it worse. I stood up and walked slowly, feeling eyes on me. My steps felt wrong. I could hear whispers from the two women. One of them snickered quietly. When I sat back down, she already had 3 new messages on her screen. She showed me a chart, a literal chart, bars and color codes ranking people she dated. She pointed to someone who tilted his head too often, someone who blinked too slow, someone who ate peas weird. She had summaries like disharmony in utensil handling and inconsistent chewing rhythm. It was insane. She said her chat once tracked the shape of a guy's sneakers and compared them to clown shoes for a week. The diner's neon sign flickered through the window, making her face look almost cinematic for a second. She leaned in closer and said she posted a picture of my hand reaching for fries. Her chat said my fingers looked tense. She asked why. I said nothing. She said silence points are big. Then she typed silence observed, possible avoidance. The 2 women at the other table stood up slowly, grabbed their coats, and walked out while laughing. She watched them go, smiling proudly. She said they'll add detailed follow-ups later. She looked at my plate and asked if I was done. When I nodded, she typed finish food too early. She said slow eaters are more controllable. She labeled me quick finish. When the bill came, she snapped a picture of it. She said receipt photos are fun because everyone guesses who paid, how much tip, and if someone hesitated. I didn't hesitate. I paid straight away just to leave. She typed quick payer, possible guilt. I swear my heart dropped at that. Outside, she stretched her arms like she finished her workout. She said she can't wait to write my review tonight. She said it'll be long because I have interesting flaws. She waved goodbye without eye contact and walked toward the bus stop, typing nonstop. When I got home, I saw a random account view my profile, then a second, then a third. People I didn't know. All within minutes, my chest sank. She wasn't joking about how fast they read and spread. Somewhere in a private chat, my hands, chewing, walking, napkin grabbing, and silence are probably fingerprinted into jokes, and I can't erase any of it. I met him at this quiet outdoor seating area behind a small grill place near the edge of the city. The place wasn't crowded, just a few tables spaced out on a wooden deck and some cars rolling by in the background. It smelled like smoke and charcoal, and there was this old radio playing low near the kitchen door. He was already there when I arrived, sitting with perfect posture, tapping his fingers like he was timing something in his head. When I sat down, he didn't say anything at first. He just looked at me like he was scanning for potential. We ordered some food, nothing crazy, just burgers and fries. He didn't get a drink, just water. I noticed he talked really direct, no warm-up, no random jokes. He jumped straight into asking what I saw myself doing in 5 years. I thought it was just general talk. But when I mentioned something about staying near my family, maybe getting better at my job, he shook his head like that was wrong. He asked again, but slower. I repeated basically the same answer because I didn't know what else he wanted. He stared like I failed the test. He leaned back and said he only dates women who are willing to relocate wherever his job takes him. He said that like it was the most normal rule ever. He said travel is part of his career and staying anywhere too long becomes boring. He asked if I would leave everything behind at a moment's notice. I kind of laughed because I thought he was exaggerating, but he didn't laugh back. He said he's moved 6 times already in the last 2 years, and if someone wanted to be with him, they should be ready to go without thinking. I tried explaining about family, how we sometimes look after each other, birthdays, stuff like that. He cut me off and said family attachments slow people down. He said career matters more. He asked if I was willing to quit my job if his company moved him somewhere remote. I said no because that sounded extreme. He wrote something in his phone. Not typing fast, just slow taps like filling out a checklist. Then he asked if I had younger siblings, older siblings, grandparents, anything that could tie me down. When I answered, he nodded like he was collecting data. He seemed disappointed at every person I mentioned. When I said I liked my current job and wanted to grow in the field, he said ambition without mobility is useless. He said true success means leaving everything behind. He said that like he memorized it from somewhere. He told me about his past dates. He said he tested them too. One girl refused to move out of her hometown, so he ended things after 3 days. Another girl got attached to her friends, so he said she would never survive outside her comfort zone. He said a real partner follows him. He said he doesn't want a relationship where someone tries to convince him to pause. He said he never pauses. While we ate, he pulled up maps on his phone, showing places he might end up next. He pointed at a random city across the world and said if he was told to move tomorrow, he would pack and leave within hours. He said he expects the same from whoever he chooses. He said it's not personal. It's efficiency. I looked at my burger, suddenly not hungry. He started asking hypothetical questions. If your sibling got sick and needed you, would you leave for my job? If your parents begged you to stay, would you still go? If something bad happened here, would you follow me anyway? He didn't blink while asking. When I hesitated even 1 second, he tapped his phone again. He said hesitation equals weakness. Then he asked if I owned any pets. When I said no, he smiled. He said pets are anchors. He said anchors are inconvenient. I asked what if someone wanted to build something stable somewhere. He called that outdated. He said the world isn't meant for staying still anymore. He tapped his finger on the table in a steady rhythm. The place got quieter as the sun went down. The radio crackled. He talked about how he tests loyalty early. He said sometimes he asks girls to cancel plans on short notice just to prove they're flexible. He said if they complain, he knows they're not worth keeping. He bragged about making someone quit her hobby because it interfered with their travel schedule. He said she didn't pass anyway. He asked if I had hobbies that required being rooted. I said I enjoyed spending time with friends on certain nights. He shook his head. He said routines trap people. He asked if I could drop people easily. I said no. He tapped his phone again. Then he asked how often I call relatives. When I answered, he sighed. He said constant contact means emotional baggage. He talked about his job like he was some soldier of movement. He said his life is chosen by direction, not people. He said partners are just passengers. He said whoever stays behind becomes background. He said he never read backwards once he leaves. He repeated that twice. Then he leaned closer and said something that made me freeze. He said he sometimes tests how long someone takes to break ties. He said if they can cut people off in under a week, they're promising. If they cry or hesitate, they're useless. He said guilt is weakness. He stared at me like he wanted to know if I could cut my entire world loose. I tried switching the topic. He ignored it. He asked if I could pack tonight if he told me. I said no. He smiled like he expected it. He wrote final in his notes. He stood up slowly, leaving his water half full. He said he doesn't waste time on those who choose routes. He said one day I'll understand how movement is the future. Then he walked away without waiting for anything. I sat there for a while, staring at my cold fries, watching cars go by. The neon glow reflected across the asphalt. When I finally got up, I saw him at another table across the lot, already sitting with someone else. Another girl. Already starting the same questions. She looked nervous, flipping her hair, trying to impress him. And for a second, I wondered how many passports, addresses, and relationships he's left behind like empty plates on a quiet deck. I'd never thought much about how people behave on dating apps until this one night pulled me into something that felt less like meeting someone and more like watching someone poke at others just to see them fall apart. It started on a random Thursday evening after work. I was tired, scrolling, bored, and honestly just trying to distract myself when I matched with this girl called Leah. Her pictures looked normal enough. A couple selfies, one blurry festival photo. Nothing wild. She messaged first saying we should meet up because she was already out in town. I figured why not. I changed and met her outside this small arcade bar near the canal where people sit outside and you can hear the water running slowly behind you. It had weird neon lights that flickered on one side, making shadows look long on the wall. Right when I approached her, she gave the smirk like she already knew what was going to happen tonight. She looked at me up and down as if she was checking a score in her head and nodded like I passed something. We went inside and found a table near the back where I could still hear people playing pool, but it was quieter. At first, she talked about basic stuff like work, friends, the usual. Then she started talking about how she handles guys online. She said she ignores messages for days just to see who will beg for attention. She bragged about blocking guys the moment they seem attached, like she got points for it. Most people would say stuff like that jokingly, but she said it as if she was proud, like she was talking about trophies. She pulled out her phone and showed me messages from guys she was currently doing this to. Long paragraphs from dudes stressing about why she had not replied, and she just scrolled through laughing quietly. She kept saying she never got bored of the reaction. She said it told her everything she needed to know. It felt gross. It was like she saw people as toys. I tried to move the conversation somewhere else, but she leaned forward and said she wanted to see how I reacted if she disappeared for a week. She asked how many days it would take me before I lost my mind. I just shrugged and said none, but she eyed me like she did not believe it. Later, we moved outside to high stools by the water. The reflection of purple lights bounced off the canal. She said she had a group chat with her friends where they share screenshots of guys being ignored. They compare who breaks first. She said she blocked one guy after he waited in a cafe for 2 hours. She thought that was hilarious and kind of beautiful. She used that word like she was describing art. She talked about these stories like they meant something deep. She then asked if I had ever read through my old messages with people and seen how much I changed. I said not really, but she said she read hers weekly. She said she likes to see the emotion she caused in people. It made her feel in control. She said control was the only thing she ever cared about. It did not sound deep. It sounded empty. At some point, she started watching everyone around us more than she watched me, always scanning for reactions. A waiter walked by, and she whispered about how easy it would be to mess with a guy like that, how if she ignored him for just a couple days, he would fold. It felt like she studied people like puzzles she wanted to break apart. Then she asked if I wanted to walk toward this small outdoor food market down the street. I said sure because staying seated felt like being trapped. When we walked, she kept glancing at her phone to check if any guy she was ignoring had finally snapped. She smiled every time she saw anger. It was messed up, and I started feeling uncomfortable being next to her. At the food market, she ordered nothing, just stood there leaning on the railing and talked about how she used to create fake profiles just to ignore more people at once. She said sometimes she would reply after a week and pretend nothing happened to see how loyal someone was. She said if they responded instantly, she called them boring. If they asked where she was, she called them weak. There was no winning with her. It was like she got enjoyment from seeing what people would do without giving anything back. She switched topics to her ex. She said she stopped replying to him for 2 weeks, even though they were still technically together. When he confronted her, she said she blocked him and never spoke to him again. She smirked like she thought I would find that cool. I did not. As the night went on, she started asking weird questions like how long I would wait outside someone's house if they were not answering their door. She asked how often I check my phone when I am waiting for a reply. She wanted exact numbers. She wanted patterns. She said she could guess what kind of person someone was based on reaction speed alone. She pulled up notes on her phone and showed me lists of people she ignored and their response stages. She tracked how each guy reacted emotionally. She ranked them. She had categories like panic, frustration, silence, anger. It was like she studied them like animals in the lab. I asked why she did all this, and she shrugged and said some people collect shoes. She collects reactions. She said it like it was obvious. She then said she wanted to add me to her list because I looked like someone who would cave. That annoyed me, and I said I probably would not. She got close to my face like she was trying to read something behind my eyes. She said that makes me more interesting. When I said I needed to head home, she said that was fine, but then she followed a couple steps behind me as I walked toward the station. She watched how often I checked my phone. I wasn't expecting anyone to message me, but she kept staring. When we reached the station, she said she would message me later and walked away without looking back. On the train, I got no message. That night, nothing. Next morning, nothing. Then she finally messaged a single emoji and nothing else. Her social page posted something about catching another fish. A friend commented guessing who it was. It felt like she was talking about me. I did not reply. She ignored me for 4 days after that. I did not answer once. When she finally sent a long paragraph asking if I was upset, I just blocked her. Weeks later, someone I know matched her too. Same patterns, same game. He fell into it. I watched from the side, knowing exactly where it was heading. I met this guy called Mason on a random Sunday afternoon. I was sitting in this park next to a small basketball court, watching a group of kids play while scrolling through my phone. My week was boring, I was bored of work, and I just wanted something to distract my head. His profile looked normal enough. A decent smile, some pictures with friends, nothing weird. He messaged me saying he was already nearby and asked if I wanted to grab something to drink since the weather was decent. I said sure because I had nothing better to do, and honestly, being outside was better than staying home staring at my ceiling again. We agreed to meet at this weirdly quiet cafe that sits under a block of apartments. It has these warm lamps and small plants on every table. They play soft music and everyone whispers like it is a library. When I walked in, he stood and waved, then pointed at the seat across from him. He seemed friendly at first. We talked about basic stuff like work and hobbies, and it felt pretty normal. I thought maybe this would just be a calm night. After a few minutes, though, he leaned forward and said something strange. He said he uses a stopwatch on his phone whenever someone replies to him. He said he tracks the seconds. He said he has done this for years. I thought he was joking, but he pulled out his phone and showed me a list. Columns, times, patterns, average response gaps. He read through them like he was reading sports stats. He said he eliminates anyone who replies in under 3 minutes because he likes feeling chased. He said if someone replies too fast, he gets bored. He said if someone takes too long, he deletes them too. He said the timing tells him everything he needs to know. I started getting uncomfortable, but he kept smiling like this was a totally normal thing to do. He said he wants to see if someone cares enough to reply in just the right amount of time. He said he has a formula. He said it helps him avoid people who are too eager. He said he likes a challenge more than a connection. That was the word he used, challenge, like people were puzzles he needed to solve. While he talked, he was checking his phone constantly. He said he was timing someone else as we sat there. He waited until his phone buzzed and started calculating how long her reply took. He mumbled numbers and nodded to himself. He said she was doing well. He said she kept it interesting. When the drinks came, he asked how long it usually takes me to reply to someone. I just shrugged and said it depends on what I am doing. He stared at me while I said that, like he was trying to guess if I was telling the truth. Then he told me that he tests people by sending messages at specific times. He sends one late at night, one early morning, and one during busy hours. If someone replies instantly to all three, he deletes them. He said those people have no life. He said he wants someone who makes him wait, but never too long because he wants to feel like he earned it. He went deeper into it, talking about how he breaks women down into categories. He tracks their patterns to figure out when they are free, when they wake up, when they go to sleep. He said after a few days he can guess their entire weekly routine. He seemed proud of this. He said he collects response times like other people collect photos. He even showed me graphs on his notes app, lined graphs with spikes and dips. It was creepy. He then asked if he could record how long I take to answer him after tonight. He said he wanted to add me to his research. He called it research like he was doing something important. I told him I'd just reply when I see things. He nodded like he was studying an animal. It made my skin crawl a bit. After about half an hour, we decided to walk. He suggested this new street market behind the station. We walked through crowds of people, food stalls, and loud music, but he barely looked at anything. He kept staring at his phone, watching the screen like someone was about to text. He said he loved the suspense of waiting. Then he asked how often I checked my notifications. I said not often, but he just smiled like he did not believe me. We sat at a bench near the market, watching people buy random snacks. He started talking about how he once ghosted a girl for 8 days and then sent a short message just to see how fast she would reply. He said she replied instantly and he deleted her. He said anyone who replies that fast must be desperate. He said he refuses to talk to people who do not make him work for it. It was like he wanted to struggle because struggling gave him a rush. At some point, he asked if I ever tried to test someone like that. I said no because I do not see the point. He said it gives him power. He said he wants to feel like he could disappear and then come back and still have control. He talked like he wanted his dates to feel grateful just for hearing from him. He then pulled up screenshots from old chats, timers next to them, notes describing exactly what happened. He read through them with this weird excitement. The way he described people, it was like they were objects, not humans. When we walked back toward the station, he stopped and stared at me. He said he wants someone who acts busy but never too busy for him. He said everyone fits into a pattern eventually. Then he told me if I reply too quickly tomorrow, he will delete me. If I reply too slow, he will delete me. He said he will know within 3 days if I am worth talking to. It was like a twisted game. He asked if we should meet again. I said maybe, mostly just to end the night. He smiled and walked away without a goodbye. On the train home, I got a message from him. Just one emoji. No words. I did not reply. I waited. Eventually, another message came with a question mark. I still did not reply. He waited until the next day, sending short messages asking if I saw it. I ignored him. By the second day, he sent a long paragraph breaking down how many hours I took, what it meant, and how it revealed who I am. Then he said he was done. He deleted me. 2 days later, someone told me they matched him too. Same patterns, same timing games, same bragging. I watched it happen all over again from a distance. I did not expect anything weird that night. I was bored at home scrolling through my phone, and she matched with me out of nowhere. Her pictures looked normal. Hoodie, sneakers, messy hair, nothing crazy. She said she wanted something chill, not a huge fancy plan. We agreed to meet at this bowling alley that has food and arcade machines attached to it. It smelled like fried food, spilled soda, and old shoes, but it looked fun enough. Kids ran past yelling, pins crashed in the distance, and the lights blinked in random colors. I got there early and sat on one of those plastic seats near the lanes. I checked my wallet to make sure I had cash and my card. I always do that. It felt like a habit. She came in 10 minutes later wearing an oversized jacket and tight jeans. She waved that we knew each other for years and sat super close, even though there was space. She smelled like strong perfume that kind of punched my nose, but I decided not to comment. We played a warm-up round and she laughed a lot. Every time she threw the ball, she walked back and pulled on my sleeve like she wanted attention. She kept touching my arm and leaning in, asking me what score I thought she would get next. It did not feel romantic, though. It felt like she was checking something off a list. I shrugged it off because maybe she was just excited. At the snack bar, she kept talking about how she loves guys who are generous and hate splitting bills. She said splitting was awkward and childish. She pointed at the menu and ordered herself chicken tenders, fries, donuts, and a smoothie. She didn't ask if I wanted anything. She just turned around and walked back to the lane, leaving me holding the receipt. I paid without thinking too hard. Maybe she was hungry. Back at the bowling, she stopped playing and sat beside me while I finished my turn. She leaned her head on her hand and stared at my pockets like she was looking at something specific. When my wallet popped halfway out as I bent down to pick a ball, she leaned closer. She asked me random questions about my job, income, where I live, and how often I go out. I noticed her eyes did not leave the wallet until I tucked it deeper. She suggested going to the arcade area. It was loud there and kids screamed at fake zombies on screens. She wanted to play a basketball shooting game. I watched her play, and while the machine counted down, she would bump into me on purpose. She said she was clumsy. I was not sure. Then she asked if she could hold my jacket because she was hot. I laughed awkwardly and handed it to her. She held it weirdly, folding it over her arm. When she turned around, I saw her hand slide into my pocket area like she was adjusting the fabric, but I brushed it off. My mind told me she was just moving the jacket around. We walked around the arcade, and she kept pushing me in front of machines, telling me to play and show off. Every time I focused on something else, she shifted behind me. It happened 3 times. It felt strange, but I tried to ignore it. After a bit, she said she wanted fresh air, so we went outside. The sky was dark and the parking lot lights flickered. She leaned against the wall and tapped her nails on her phone. She seemed distracted, like she was waiting for something. She asked if I wanted to walk around the parking lot. I said sure. She looked around like she was checking if anyone was watching, then asked if I had cash on me. I joked that she should chill because it was a first date. She did not laugh. She just nodded slowly. She pretended to stretch and her jacket fell from her arm onto the ground. When she bent down to pick it up, she went low and paused like she dropped something else. I did not see what she did, but she crouched longer than she needed to. When she stood back up, she smiled wider than before. Then she said she needed to use the bathroom and ran inside. I went back into and waited by the counter. I reached into my pocket to see how much cash I had left because maybe I would buy us something else. My pocket was empty. My stomach dropped. I reached into my other pockets. Nothing. My wallet was gone. Panic hit me. I checked around my feet and the table. Nothing. I tapped my pockets again and again. Still nothing. I walked to the bathroom area and saw her coming out. She had her phone pressed to her ear and avoided eye contact. She waved at me quickly and said she had to go because her friend needed something urgent. She rushed toward the exit. I tried to stop her and ask if she had seen my wallet, but she just kept saying she would text later and ran faster. She slipped through the door and almost tripped. I chased after her outside, but she was already hopping into a car that pulled up. The driver slammed the gas and the car sped out the lot. I memorized the color but could not catch the plate. I stood there in the cold parking lot watching the taillights fade. My heart was pounding. I went back inside and asked one of the workers if they found a wallet anywhere. They shook their head. I checked every lane, every corner, and even the trash cans. Nothing. I talked to the manager and asked to see if cameras pointed anywhere near us. He said they only recorded near the doors and cashier area. I felt hopeless. I sat on one of the plastic seats feeling like an idiot. I checked my phone and saw a message from her that said her battery was dying. Then another message popped up saying she would text me tomorrow. I answered asking about my wallet. She left me on scene. After 10 minutes, she blocked me. My face burned from embarrassment. I called my bank and canceled my card. I had to explain what happened 3 times before the operator processed it. I realized there was cash in there, my ID, and a picture of my family. It sucked. I sat in my bed that night staring at the ceiling, thinking about how she stared at my pockets. I read everything we texted before and noticed she asked earlier what kind of wallet I used and if I carry cash. At the time, I thought she was just curious. 2 days later, my friend sent me a picture posted in his group chat. It was a girl buying groceries with a card she bragged about stealing from a guy at a bowling alley. The picture angle looked like someone took it from far. I recognized the jacket sleeve. The caption said she was proud she did not have to pay for anything that week. I reported it, but I don't know what came of it. I never heard from her again. I deleted the app. I carry my wallet in my front pocket, now zipped. And when someone leans behind me too much, I step away.